Okay, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Manggcast, hosted by a man who has still not played Rocket League despite everybody else doing so. So this week, we have not a whole lot of gaming news, and really not a whole lot of movie news. Not a whole real busy week. Anybody that was really into video games has been watching SGDQ, Summer Games Done Quick, including myself. I didn't watch it probably as much as I could have, but I watched a number of runs, and so I'll talk about some of the cool stuff that I saw. I mean, overall, you really got to hand it to these guys that put this all together. Everybody that shows up, it's become a really big deal, and they raise a hell of a lot of money for a pretty good cause. As of right now, as of this recording, they have raised $919,000 for Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières, and it's pretty damn impressive. And they do this, you know, like every 6 months or so, and it's always really well done. So they it started with the first thing was a playthrough 100% of Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, but the first thing that I watched was, what was the first run through that I watched? It was a race of Maldita Castilla, which is a game that I had never heard of, but I saw a link that was discussing how great the run was. It actually was very entertaining. It was between two guys, P. Cool and Mr. Weebles, and very interesting, kind of ghouls and ghosts-esque, Ghosts and Goblins type game. Very entertaining to watch. The Tetris block is always very interesting, because those guys that just grandmaster Tetris, always impressive. Ever since, I don't know, that was like maybe my freshman years. I don't know, when I first watched a YouTube video, or maybe that was sophomore year or something, like of a Japanese Tetris grandmaster, just blew me away. Always very cool to watch. What else did I check out? I always watch Striker's runs of any Star Wars games that he does or whatever. He's very entertaining, very cool guy, and he wrote a speedrunning song that he's performed a couple times now. It's always very entertaining. The Mega Man block, I watched a bit of that, which is always cool to see those games just get, I mean, pretty much any speedrun tends to be very impressive, but Mega Man is one of those games that just looks very impressive to watch, because generally you can follow along with what's going on, and that's cool. I, of course, watched the Ori and the Blind Forest run, which was just like, I mean, it was one of those games which, as I was playing it, when I did the Let's Play, I was like, yeah, this game could definitely be speedrun. Like, it was made for speedrunning. And so I had yet to actually watch anybody speedrun it, and so here it was, and yeah, I was pretty blown away. I was very impressed. Very cool. And I think they had one of the developers or something like that on Skype with him, so he was kind of chiming in. It was cool if you're into that game. The Legend of Zelda Swordless run. So this was the original NES Legend of Zelda, which I played way back now. And it was done swordless, so he never picked up the sword until much later. And he beat pretty much the entire game without the sword. So this is using mostly bombs, but also the wand and the candle and things like that. And he was doing some sort of, it wasn't completely kosher. I mean, there were some kind of glitches going on and things like that, but for the most part, it was pretty good. And then he had to get the sword because you need the sword to beat Ganon at the end, and he actually couldn't do it, surprisingly. Which I guess is a bit of a spoiler. He couldn't beat Ganon, which he said, like, the swordless run ends before you defeat Ganon, because, I mean, can't do it without the sword. So technically he finished the run, but it was interesting he couldn't kill Ganon with the sword. And then right after that was the Earthbound run, which was, I think I have seen an Earthbound speedrun before, which uses a lot of random number manipulation to kind of alter when you get crits and what the enemy's actions do during combat and things like that. But it was very, very cool to see it done live like that, and he was actually having to, you actually get to hear him count off how many different, the manipulation and things like that. Very interesting run for somebody that likes Earthbound. Very impressive. Then I watched, and I'm not done yet. The actual event's not done yet. Right now, I think the Super Metroid race is in about 3 hours. I'm very excited about that. Followed by the 100% Chrono Trigger run, which they did. I want to say they did that at AGDQ or the last SGDQ. They've done this before. Maybe it wasn't 100%. I don't know what it was. But I watched that, and I think it's the same people doing it. So I'm looking forward to that, and I still have some other runs that I want to see. I watched the Mega Man 4 race, which was cool because it was neck and neck for a long time, and neck and neck right up to the ending, and then there was kind of a clutch win. It was pretty sweet. So that was cool. More Mega Man stuff. I watched the Fallout run and the Fallout 3 run. The Fallout run, I mean, I've seen Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 speedruns plenty of times. It's always kind of just mind-blowing. It's just like, shit, man. Because when I first played those games, you just spend dozens and dozens of hours just screwing around, just like, oh, okay. And then here, okay, I'll beat it in 8 minutes. It was cool. Fallout 3 run was kind of similar, except it used a lot of out-of-bounds tricks. And so you kind of jumped out of levels and through levels, and kind of, that's basically how you speedrun any Bethesda game, but yeah. I Want to Be the Boshi, I watched a bit of that. I think that was done by the same guy last time, and it's basically the same run. I'm surprised it was done again. It's a crazy game. If you haven't checked out a speedrun of that, or any footage of I Want to Be the Boshi, it's pretty crazy. Then I watched the Pokemon Blue 151 Pokemon run, where he gets all 151 Pokemon in just under 2 hours. Crazy, crazy stuff. I didn't even know that was a thing, but yeah, he uses a lot of glitches. You kind of just have to check it out. I mean, it's a longer run. It's about 2 hours, but yeah, he really breaks that game open. It's pretty insane, and they mention it a whole bunch of times during the run that if he does like one single misclick at any one of many moments, the whole game will crash, the run's over. I don't know if the run would be over, but he'd lose a bunch of time. And there was like a stretch there for like 15 minutes where he's just doing like incredibly precise glitching and text whatever, and it's crazy. Really breaks open that game live, and it's really cool to see. And then after that, he and then another guy did a Pokemon Blue blindfolded race. So they play through the game blindfolded to the end. And obviously it's again, there's a lot of glitching and sequence breaks, and they don't actually play through the whole game and all that, but it takes about 34 minutes. But that was probably even crazier to see. Anything done blindfolded ever at any of these events is really awesome. Usually there's one or two of those every event. Very cool to see. I watched the Shadow of the Colossus speedrun because I did play that game, and I wasn't crazily impressed by my playthrough of it, but I do kind of respect it as a game, and so I was curious to see how it was speedrun. And he did kind of the time attack mode where you just go from boss to boss to boss, and it was pretty cool to see him just wreck some of these things in ways that you're not really meant to. And then that's pretty much it. I have yet to watch the Dark Souls 2 run. I'll probably be watching that later. There's the Portal run that I wanted to watch, the Tazbot section, and then of course the Super Metroid Chrono Trigger stuff, and then probably a couple other ones that I'll look at. But yeah, very cool stuff. Even if you're not crazy into speedruns, it's cool to check out just some of the games that you played as a kid or something, you know, that you struggled with or whatever, and just to see what people with time and skill can really do with games that you're interested in. So, yeah, check it out. Okay, moving on to actual news, I guess. PlayStation owners, PlayStation Plus people, I guess, will soon be able to vote on which games go onto PlayStation Plus. As in, which games become free to PlayStation Plus users. And so there's not, I mean, there's going to be restrictions on this. It's not just going to be like, oh, you know, Witcher 3, I want it free. Boom, we all vote. Done. There's going to be, they're saying that they're going to put out a selection of games, and the community will get to vote on which ones become free, and then all the rest of them will become discounted for that month. Which is pretty cool. I mean, I don't really see this being bad. This seems like a positive just from the outset. This seems like probably what they already do internally. It's just they're putting it in the community's hand instead, which, yeah, I mean, it has the potential to be kind of screwed up, but I guess, I mean, anytime you put any form of voting on the internet, you have the potential for it to be just kind of screwed with by trolls and things like that. And people that, like, the majority of people that are in the PlayStation Plus probably won't even know about this, and if they do, they probably won't even vote on it. I guess it depends on how the voting is done. If it's just through, like, the website, yeah, I mean, that's probably bad. If it's through, like, the PlayStation 4 interface or something like that, like you just log in on your PS4 and you go to a page there, that has a better chance of getting to more people and less likely to be trolled. So hopefully that's what happens. But overall, I think this is a good positive. People that, you know, you get an input into what you really want to see free. And PlayStation Plus overall has been very good. Not too many people have been upset with it, at least as far as I've heard. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see as to far as how many games are going to be available to vote on. You know, what the selection is going to be like, things like that. You know, sometimes I guess you can probably guess what's going to win just by looking at the selection. Just based on what's popular and things like that. I can imagine Assassin's Creed will win anytime it's ever available, even if it's bullshit like Unity or whatever. So we'll have to see, but overall I like that they're putting it in people's hands instead of just doing it internally. It's probably good, but we'll have to see. Alright, moving on. Ubisoft announced that there will be a port of Zombi U to the PS4, Xbox One, and PC digitally on August the 18th. So that's in a little over 2 weeks from now. So they're revealing this kind of late, and they're just like, oh yeah, Zombi U, here you go. And it's not called Zombi U because that would involve the Wii U, which nobody likes to talk about. So it's called Zombi, with ending with an I. Z-O-M-B-I. And this is really funny to me, because there's a whole convoluted story involving Dawn of the Dead, I believe, or something like that. I'm trying to remember. I'd like to get Angry Video Game Nerd, James Rolfe, did a whole video about all this. So I'm trying to remember how that goes. It's really convoluted. It's funny. So yeah, there was Dawn of the Dead by George Romero. I know I'm getting into movies here, but let me finish this. So there's Dawn of the Dead by George Romero, and then that was translated over into Italian, and it was titled Zombie. And then there was Zombie 2, which had nothing to do with Zombi, which was just Dawn of the Dead in Italian. But they decided to call it Zombie 2. This is also ending with I, by the way. And so then I think Zombie 2 came over to America, and since we didn't have Zombie 1, because that's just Dawn of the Dead, they changed it to Zombie Flesh Eaters, I believe. And then they also made Zombie Flesh Eaters 2, which was Zombie 3 in Italy. And yeah, so this all ends with I. And so it's funny that now we have Zombie U, which is just zombie. Anyways. So, that's funny, but the surprising part is the fact that this is actually coming out. Like, who really cares about Zombie U, or Zombie, I guess? I mean, I played through the game, and I thought it was kind of novel involving the gamepad. But other than that, the game was just kind of forgettable, and the ending was bullshit, and I still say it's bullshit. So now you're going to be playing on the PC, and you're not going to have the Wii U gamepad, obviously. And so that's going to be kind of modified into probably just you just press I on your keyboard, and boom, there's your inventory. I mean, it's still going to be kind of real time, but you're not going to have to like look down at anything. Because that was kind of the novel part of playing Zombie U, was everything was kind of real time. It didn't pause the game. You had to, the inventory was only on the gamepads. You actually have to look down at it and rummage around, and so you couldn't look up at the screen, and zombies could be coming. And it was kind of novel. That taken out of the new version of the game, you just kind of have a shitty version of Resident Evil. It's basically what you have. So I don't know. It's interesting that Ubisoft decided to do this. I guess they thought we have this sitting around. We have the whole game. Nobody's playing this shit on Wii U. We're never going to sell any more copies of that. So we might as well just make a quick and dirty port over to the other systems and just release it digitally, which is a lot easier than releasing it physically. So, boom, there you go, done. I'm curious then on if that means we'll ever get a sequel to the game. Probably not on any Nintendo system. If it sells decently on the other systems, we might get a digital release of Zombie 2. Zombie Flesh Eaters 2, I don't know. But probably not, because it's not a very good game, so I don't see it selling well. But I guess some people did like it. But you're playing that on PC. It's like you got a wealth of options there. The only reason people bought it, the only reason I bought it, was it was like a launch title for the Wii U. There wasn't a whole lot of like more mature themed games for the Wii U. It was kind of like it filled a role. But on the PC, you have so many other options that are so much better. The other systems, even then, you have Dying Light or things like that. It's just like no, just no, Ubisoft, stop it. All right, speaking of the Wii U and how it's going the way of the dodo, as they say, because of the NX. And speaking of the NX, we now have officially announced titles for the NX. Not from Nintendo, because they're not talking about it. And not from Bandai Namco, as we said last week. They had really no knowledge of it. Maybe that's bullshit. To be honest, I kind of want to say it's bullshit, because Square Enix this week announced they announced Dragon Quest 11, and they announced that it was coming out for the PS4, the 3DS, and the NX. And then along with that, they also said that Dragon Quest X will be coming out for the NX. So, Dragon Quest X and 11 coming out for the NX. this is interesting. Dragon Quest X, as I understand it, this is something I would never really play, but Dragon Quest X was, I guess, like an MMO. You know, I mean, you could play it offline for a few hours, but it had a subscription fee, and it was an MMO. But it was Dragon Quest. And Dragon Quest X was originally for the Wii, the Wii U, and PC. But it was only available in Japan. And I guess it later came out for some other platforms. But really, it was a Japan thing. So they're announcing it then for the NX, as well as Dragon Quest XI, which is not an MMO. It's a single player experience. And they also announced 11 for the 3DS and the PS4. So it's like that's just like we can't extrapolate any info from that. If they said just PS4 and NX, it'd be like, okay, so the NX is kind of like a console thing. But now, you know, they said both, so it's like, shit, it doesn't really give us much information. The NX could be a console thing, it could be a mobile thing, it could be whatever. And then also Dragon Quest X, which was also on the PC, the Wii U, and the 3DS. So it's still... we can't still draw any real information from this announcement. It's good, I guess. It's a good announcement that, you know, games are being developed for this. This is a real deal thing that is going on. I mean, we would all like to hope that the Dragon Quest XI is going to be more akin to the PS4 version on the NX than the 3DS version. But it's hard to say. It is odd that Dragon Quest XI is coming out for the PS4 and the 3DS. Like, not many games come out for those two systems. So the NX is just... strange. Strange. I think a lot of people are saying that it could be something akin to a mobile console that also connects to a larger television and becomes sort of a regular console. I think that may be in their best interest, but that would also be somewhat invalidating than the 3DS, which maybe they're ready to do. But they also announced then Dragon Quest XI for the 3DS. So maybe that fact kind of goes away from the fact that the NX is more mobile. Why would they compete with themselves in that aspect? So because of that fact that this game is also coming out for the 3DS, I think that supports the idea that the NX is more of a traditional console. In which case, perhaps then, this means that it is somewhat on par with the PS4 as far as specs, which would be good and what is, I think, we're all kind of expecting. If not, perhaps a bit more powerful than the PS4, but that remains to be seen. So, yeah, perhaps that's the info we can extrapolate from this announcement, but that's kind of me just guessing, I guess. Alright, and that's pretty much it for video game news. Not, again, like I said, not a whole lot, but it's kind of just been speedruns all week. Moving on to movie news, we had another passing in the, I guess not really in the movie world, but in the pop culture world, and that was Roderick Toombs, aka Roddy Piper, aka Hot Rod, passed away at the age of 61 from cardiac arrest during his sleep, which I think, to be fair, is probably a decent way to go out. But he was pretty young at 61 years of age. I'm not going to really dwell on this article because I was never really much of a wrestling guy. I just didn't. It wasn't a thing. I didn't watch. So I've never seen him wrestle. I didn't know anything about that. The only thing I know, and really the only reason I'm bringing this up, is because he was in They Live, which was a fantastic, fantastic movie. Really, I think has had a pretty big influence on pop culture. Plenty of references to that movie throughout the years, and he surprisingly played the part very, very well. Then, because of this fact, because of his passing, I think perhaps doing a reboot or a remake of that movie anytime in the near future would probably be in somewhat poor taste. But that hasn't really stopped Disney from doing a live-action Genie prequel movie, so it's hard to say. Hollywood is somewhat unforgiving in that aspect. So, like I said, I'm not really going to dwell on the article. It's unfortunate, of course, anytime anybody passes, but I'm not going to sit here and get emotional about the whole thing. So, let's move on then. Now that I seem like an asshole. Okay. So during the week then, there was kind of this whole thing about Channing Tatum. And no, I'm not about to talk about Magic Mike. I'm going to talk about Gambit, which was it's a Marvel character, of course. Comic books. And Gambit was seen in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which was an abomination, to be honest, where he was played by Taylor Kitsch. I don't know how to pronounce it. You get the idea. And he was not in that movie for very long, but he was kind of memorable. He was kind of a memorable part of that movie amidst a sea of dreck. And so that was kind of it for Gambit. But Channing Tatum has kind of been spearheading this whole, the whole concept of a standalone Gambit movie. He's kind of just been the main face of it. He wants to do it. He's been working on his accent. He's been working on card tricks. He's been doing all this kind of stuff. He's like, we want to get this movie made, blah, blah, blah. I'm Channing Tatum. I want to be Gambit, blah, blah, blah. And for a long time, it seemed like that was all going to happen. He was going to be Gambit, blah, blah, blah. It was kind of in a bit of developmental nonsense. And this week, it was finally announced that he had, or I guess it was said that he had dropped out of the project. He was no longer going to be Gambit. He was just, and because of that, probably the whole thing was never going to happen. And I guess the rumor was that he had dropped out because he just could not find a good script. He was waiting to read a good script, and it was never being put in front of him. And, I mean, a couple years ago, I don't think he would have had an issue with this. I don't think it would have been brought up. He would just made the movie. But since then, Jupiter Ascending has occurred, which, if you don't recall, and it's easy to forget, if I bring this movie up, some people are just like, what is that? Jupiter Ascending was the Wachowskis' most recent film project, with Mila Kunis and Channing Tatum, and I didn't even see it, and I don't know if I'll ever see it, because it was just kind of no. Just no. So since then, he has become, I guess, much more careful about which scripts he goes for, which projects he goes into. So I guess now it was believable that he would drop out because he just couldn't read a good script. But now, as of 3 hours ago, apparently, it has been announced officially that he has closed the deal to officially be Gambit, which was a turnaround suddenly. And they're saying that, according to this report, those rumors about him leaving were entirely untrue. None of that was official or whatever. Everything was kind of just going normally with negotiations, and they were just kind of bumpy, as they tend to be. And people just kind of blew it up and freaked out and blah, blah, blah. And just it got completely out of hand. And so now it's been officially announced he is Gambit. It's all going ahead. They have their director. I guess they have their script. And they're going to go ahead. And Gambit, I guess, is set for a fall 2016 release, which is about a year or so from now, a little bit over a year. So yeah, they're probably going to start filming this pretty damn soon. So I think if negotiations had kind of lingered on for much longer, I don't know if it would have happened. I mean, they could have delayed it. I don't know. Too many people that are just crazy hyped about a Gambit movie. I myself am not crazy about the character, but he also hasn't really had a great movie showcase so far. So, I know a lot of people don't think Channing Tatum is great for the role. They have other suggestions, but Channing Tatum, again, is spearheading this whole thing, so I'm not sure if it would really happen without him. Either way, it's another comic book movie. How you feel about that is how you feel about that, so. I myself am still fine with all the comic book movies. I like them all, so I'm okay with this. And I like Channing Tatum because he is one handsome man. Moving on. Hollywood Reporter posted a story that Sony is not doing too well this year. In fact, they're doing so poorly that their biggest hit of the year so far has been Paul Blart Mall Cop 2, which has grossed barely over $100 million. That is their biggest hit of the year. Meanwhile, Jurassic World has made how much money so far? I don't know, like $1.5 billion. Yeah. In fact, Jurassic World has made more money domestically than Sony has brought in with all their movies worldwide combined this year. So yeah, Sony's not doing too well. Their second biggest release of the year has been, take a guess, take a quick guess, Pixels. Pixels, which just came out, has been their second biggest hit. And Pixels is not doing great, let me tell you. Let me check the numbers real quick for Pixels, because I'm curious. I don't think it's done that well. Pixels so far, worldwide, no, actually no, it's worldwide is about 63 million. 38 million domestic, which is not, that's their second biggest hit of the year. Let me emphasize that. So yeah, Sony is kind of just not doing well with their movies, which makes perfect sense then that they were desperate. That's my emphasis, probably not theirs. Desperate to make a deal with Marvel about Spider-Man. Because Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'm doing kind of all this research as we go. Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was not a very good movie, made $700 million worldwide, which was decent, and I think it definitely would have gotten its own sequel, although the budget was fairly high. But a Spider-Man movie in the Marvel Universe done properly, yeah, that's a lot of money. Spider-Man is a huge character as far as the Marvel Universe goes. I mean, looking at the Marvel Universe as far as big characters, you have, I mean, recently it's kind of changed, but 10 years ago you had Wolverine and you had Spider-Man. That was kind of the big characters. and Spider-Man was much more marketable to kids. And Spider-Man is still marketable to kids, but now, you know, I don't really see, you know, when I see kids running around, you know what I see? I see them wearing, like, Captain America shirts. Like, honestly, this is from my own experience. I see them wearing, like, Batman shirts and Captain America shirts. Or maybe, like, an Iron Man thing, something like that. But Spider-Man is really on the down low, and Sony has just really been screwing the pooch here. And they know it. So, yeah, they're probably pretty desperate to work with Marvel, who's just, you know, rolling in the cash. They're like, you know, the Marvel CEO is like Scrooge McDuck. Like, that's kind of what it is. So, yeah. Now, Sony does have Spectre coming out in November, which is a, you know, the newest James Bond movie. That will probably do pretty damn well. Skyfall did pretty damn well. So, yeah. I mean, there's still time for Sony to kind of turn things around, but Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 is your biggest hit of the year. Something's not right. You need to restructure. So speaking of that, then, speaking of Spider-Man, this is a news article that I really like. I'm really excited to share it with you. So far, the Spider-Man reboot, yeah, I know, the new Spider-Man, so far they've only announced two actors as part confirmed. Tom Holland as Peter Parker, and I don't know if this has been really officially confirmed, but nobody has debunked this at all, and that's Marissa Tomei as Aunt May, which is odd because Marissa Tomei is still pretty hot, and Aunt May can't be hot, so it's odd. But anyways, so those so far the only two really, I mean, Tom Holland definitely, Marissa Tomei probably pretty likely. But now we have from Latino Review, which I don't know if is really a great source, but I want them to be accurate on this shit. You'll find out in a second. And they have announced some that they say are in final negotiations. One is Jason Biggs, who nobody really cares about. Hugh Laurie as J. Jonah Jameson. Okay, I mean, I like him, but really, there's only one J. Jonah Jameson in my mind, and we all know who that is. Forrest Whitaker, Miranda Cosgrove, okay, Tyler Posey, Robert Downey Jr. would make an appearance, but the big piece of news, the big announcement, which is not an announcement, but I want it to be, is Billy Zane as the Vulture. Whoa! Oh, Billy Zane! Oh, man! $2 billion. Easy. Easy money. I would see that movie multiple times. Billy Zane. Oh, man! I mean, if he could turn that around, if he could go from Scorpion King 3 to a huge blockbuster Marvel film, that's I mean, honestly, how can Billy Zane not do that when Dave Bautista has done that? Are you telling me Billy Zane is no Dave Bautista? Is that the words that are going to come out of your mouth? I hope not, because Billy Zane is far above Dave Bautista. So yeah, none of this is confirmed. None of this is anything. This is just Latino Review saying all this. Yeah, so none of this could happen, but man, oh man, would I love it. That would be incredible. Anyways, I hope the Hugh Laurie thing is actually not true, because I hope they get J.K. Simmons, but I guess if they don't, he's a fine choice, I suppose. Alright, so finally, last piece of news for today. And I always like to end it with something just really weird and messed up. It's another weird live-action adaptation of a movie, of a media that probably shouldn't be adapted to a movie. And the article itself is about the director for the movie, but the whole thing is news to me. And that's the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Okay, so Five Nights at Freddy's. If for some reason you have yet to hear about this, Five Nights at Freddy's is a series of games now, which have been kind of just... I feel like they've been developed by one guy, but I don't know exactly. I don't know much about the games. And there are a series of games in which you play a night security guard who, for some reason, has to work nights at a pizza restaurant, which is basically very much... It's Chuck E. Cheese, let's be honest. And during the night, the animatronic animals come alive and try to kill you, and you need to stop them from killing you. And so it's not... I mean, the games themselves are pretty basic as far as their design, but they've grown massively popular thanks to YouTubers and stuff like that, just playing them and acting very scared and blah, blah, blah. And so now there's, of course, because Hollywood just looks for this kind of shit, Hollywood is trying to bring this to the big screen, and so they have a new director, they have a screenwriter, they have producers, and it's all set to kind of get together. So it's kind of strange, though, because the games don't really have a plot. They don't really have an official plot. They have hundreds and hundreds of people speculating on what it all means and what the plot is and all that. But as far as I understand it, they don't really have an official written plot, which I guess neither does, like, one of the Souls games, but that is much further closer to having a plot than... I mean, that's not even a... I don't even know why I mentioned that. That's not at all fair. But I guess, yeah, the basic plot is what I told you. Is you're a night security guard, the animals come alive, they try to kill you. That's where it ends. If you survive 5 nights, you win the game. That's what it is. So, that's not to say you can't turn this into a movie. You absolutely can turn... You can turn anything... They turn Battleship into a movie. Let's not forget. So, yeah. I don't doubt that they'll be able to come up with a script wherein... I mean, you just take Night at the Museum and you just make it a horror movie with Chuck E. Cheese characters. I mean, that kind of writes itself, to be honest. But, here's the thing. The target audience for this movie is going to be 13 and 14-year-olds. If you make a horror movie, you generally make it R, which severely diminishes the number of 13 and 14-year-olds which can go see it. There will still be some, but not as many. So your profits go down, especially when you are trying to market to this demographic. So you have to make it PG-13. So a PG-13 horror movie is, well, in my mind, it usually sucks. But it's possible. You just have to cut down on the gore. So you just kind of make it scary, which is possible. This can all be done. It's been done before. So you make a scary horror movie for 13 and 14-year-olds. About animatronic coming alive and trying to kill people. Now in the game, it's just one guy. You're just playing the one security guard. There's another guy that talks to you occasionally on the phone, and that might make an appearance. But if you make it about just one guy, you make the plot. I mean, you make it. It's trickier. It's much less marketable, I think, with one guy. But really, the marketing kind of does itself here. You just say, "Oh, it's Five Nights at Freddy's," but the game's plot doesn't make any sense. This guy would never go back after one night. Ever. Why would you? Like, he makes, like, minimum wage in the game. Like, I know that. It's nonsensical. So they're gonna have to do some really tricky work, I think, here for the plot. You could bring it in, you could have it so... You could change it dramatically. And have it just be a bunch of teenagers hear about this place and they break in to spend the night or something. But the movie title has to be Five Nights at Freddy's. They can't change it. They really can't. If you want this movie to succeed at all, you have to call it Five Nights at Freddy's. So then you really kind of write yourself into a corner of how do we make any character or any characters spend 5 nights at this place. So you could maybe do kind of an anthology thing, but it's tricky. So anyways, the article itself was about the director that they found, which was Gil Keenan, who became somewhat famous, I guess, or so the article says, back in 2006 because he worked on Monster House. He directed that, which was, I don't know, I never saw it. It was animated, whatever. But it was nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards, so I guess it must have been all right. But then Gil Keenan went away from animated, and he made City of Ember in 2008, which I did see, and all I can describe it as is utterly forgettable. It was supposed to be kind of a big deal. It had Bill Murray in it in a non-comedic role, and it was kind of like steampunk-esque, but it was all underground. I think it was based on a book or something like that. It was supposed to be a big deal, but man, that I don't remember almost anything about that movie. That was really just ugh. But then he also just directed the Poltergeist remake, which I also did not see because nobody's going to go see that with me. And I hear the reviews were not great, but it made like $100 million or something like that. So, okay, I guess he's done some horror work. He's done some stop motion work. Maybe he can make it happen. But I think really the problem is with the writers here. I think they have the toughest job. So we'll see what comes of it. Like I said, I don't really care about the games, but the point here, the whole point of this is the fact that Hollywood is looking at all these games to try and make movies out of. Now, this isn't, they're looking at Battleship or Asteroids or Pixel, something like that, where it's all just kind of a Monopoly movie, which I think they are doing something with. They're looking at new shit as well. They're looking at Minecraft. They're looking at Five Nights. They're looking at Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell. They're looking at all this kind of modern stuff to see where they can go with it, and that really says how much our the video game hobby is really growing. I mean, yeah, in the old days we had stuff like the Super Mario Brothers movies, but that was few and far between. It was not a focus at all, and it was also mostly terrible. So I guess that's the point. They're looking at multiple genres. It's not just the big blockbuster action adventure kind of thing, like Prince of Persia or something like that, which, yeah, that was kind of sad. They're looking at things like Assassin's Creed, like Five Nights at Freddy's, like all sorts of different kind of genres. So it's interesting. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. I've got some more speed runs to watch. Maybe you do as well. Maybe not. Yeah, so, it is what it is. It's unfortunate about Roddy Piper. I think we all hoped that he would bless a They Live remake, which would be great. He would have a cameo. He would say a line. It would all be good. But, yeah. Life goes on, or maybe it doesn't. My name is Mang. This has been the Manggcast. And I will see you fine folks next week.